NordVPN not only encrypts your traffic and changes your IP address, but also has lots of other top VPN features to give you maximum protection. VPN can be vital if you operate in countries with low internet freedoms or restricted freedom of speech. Your online actions can lead to fines or imprisonment. Meet Double VPN. It brings the benefits of enhanced security, complete privacy, and double encryption, making it doubly hard for attackers to decipher your online data. For your everyday needs, a standard VPN connection is sufficient, but if you are a journalist or an activist advocating freedom of speech, Double VPN is your solution. The best part, it's just a click away. Amazing. Internet security is that easy. Go to nordvpn.com/Mark Felton and get an exclusive deal. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. You get a huge discount and 1 additional month for free. That's nordvpn.com/Mark Felton. A few years ago, when I was living in China, I was able to undertake a trip to the last Cold War frontier, the border with North Korea. Flying to Seoul in South Korea, I decided not to visit the main tourist draw on the demilitarized zone, Panmunjom. I wanted to get close to North Korea, but somewhere off the beaten track, and after some research, discovered an observatory on the far western side of the demilitarized zone, located on the south bank of the Imjin River, placing the visitor just 2 kilometers or 1.3 miles from North Korea. The Odosan Unification Observatory at Peju was built in 1992 and is situated in the northernmost ceasefire line of the Western Front, where the Han and Imjin rivers meet and flow out into the Yellow Sea. It stands atop a 118-meter-tall hill. I was particularly keen to view North Korea from this point, as my maternal grandfather's last campaign in his 30-year service in the British Army was the Korean War, and he was badly wounded by a Chinese mortar bomb a few kilometers north of the Imjin River, in what is now North Korea, and in this same region. It was interesting for me to see the lie of the land, and to try to imagine fighting in such a difficult and extremely mountainous terrain. The journey from Seoul to Odosan, which is about 35 kilometers, was very enlightening concerning the tensions between North and South Korea. I saw radar sites and anti-aircraft missile batteries in farmers' fields, and every so often the highway would be crossed by a thick concrete barrier, an anti-tank obstacle that could be dropped using explosives to block the road if Kim Jong-un's tanks had rolled over the frontier and were heading for Seoul. Local South Koreans jokingly refer to these massive concrete blocks as North Korean speed bumps. It was also interesting to note that we were now within range of North Korean artillery batteries, and if an invasion had begun, the area would be plastered with shells and rockets before the NKPA, the North Korean People's Army, stormed across the frontier. Arriving at Odosan, it was a rather surreal experience being so close to North Korea. And with binoculars, you can peer at North Korean border guards in their towers, and also some semi-concealed bunkers and other fortifications along the north bank of the Imjin River, the bank also being mined. The area of North Korea visible from the observatory is called the Gwansan Peninsula. As I mentioned, when you're at Odosan Observatory, you are only 1.3 miles from North Korea. However, to the right of the observatory, this gap narrows to only 1/4 of a mile, and where a South Korean observation post stands across from the heavily defended North Korean side. And at low tide, the water drains away, revealing huge mudflats. The water level drops so much that it is possible to wade across the border. There have been border incidents at Odosan. Just a few weeks after my visit, a defector was shot dead attempting to cross the river line. Directly in front of the observatory is a South Korean Army observation post. And then across the water is North Korea, with the hamlet of Gaepung visible, a run-down collection of austere communist-style buildings, some without windows, and people seem few and far between. I observed a few North Koreans carrying water buckets over wooden shoulder braces and a couple of mangy-looking dogs. The propaganda speaker located in the village was switched off during my visit. 4 relatively large buildings are visible from the South Korean side. The first is a threshing site where the local farmers bring in wheat. Then there is the Kim Il-sung Historical Museum with its Immortality Tower, Kim Il-sung being the only dead leader to still rule over a country as the eternal president of North Korea. Then there is the Imhan Elementary School and the People's Cultural Hall, where the local villagers gather for political indoctrination and also for cultural activities. The houses are a mixture of traditional Korean walled farmhouses and single-story buildings, and some multi-story blocks that appear half-finished or uninhabited, with some with no windows or roofs. Such are the tensions in the region that we were warned not to wave, shout, or otherwise try to contact people on the North Korean side. The whole place, with its dreary landscape and dreary buildings, and silent river, and guards staring at you through binoculars, gave the impression of something about to happen, which is understandable considering the amount of tensions between the two nations. You also notice, if you travel there, just how close the North Korean border is to Seoul, the South Korean capital, and realistically, if North Korea attacked, Seoul would be in the front line from the very first minute. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.